This video is now in session, and never in a million years did anyone think that this kind of video title would be remotely possible in 2022. But it could happen. The Democrats could actually win retain the House of Representatives in the midterm elections. Now, how is this? Supposedly, everything should be going against Democrats right now. You have inflation that is at a record high. You have a president who is very poorly approved of, both in the Republican Party and in his own party. And then you also have the issue of crime in certain cities. You have the issue of education that is trending towards the Republicans with conservative activism. So how does the Democrats have a shot is the real question. And it's primarily because of abortion. Now, a lot of us back in February wrote off abortion as like an issue that may kind of matter in 2022, but not necessarily be the main factor. But there is something about having a social issue be so galvanizing to the point where it makes voters turn out for a party that you didn't expect. And abortion seems to be that issue where Democrats are just super galvanized to kind of reject the Supreme Court and reject a lot of the Republican policies, the social policies that have been spread in states like Florida that are very unpopular to many Democrats. So now we're at a state where 2022 could actually look more like 2018, or not 2018, 2020, rather than 2014 or 2010. So let's, I guess, entertain this idea for a bit. How does the Democrats get 217 House districts? Currently, our outlook, which was updated a few days ago on partisanirony.com, it shows that even though the Republicans still have a very likely chance to win the House, it's not by a very large margin, 229 seats. And if we look at this map here, we can kind of zoom in more into certain areas of the United States. But even though we think that Republicans have a very likely chance of winning the House, it's not like it's impossible for the Democrats to win, right? I mean, if you look at the House forecast, Democrats have a 22% chance of winning in 2022. Compare that to what 538 said in the presidential forecast in 2020, which was around 10% for Donald Trump, and 30% for Donald Trump in 2016. And even though those are low numbers, it's not a zero. So because of that, it's possible that the Democrats could win. So let's look at this situation. The Democrats, the best bet that they're gonna have is probably in suburban districts, and the reason why is because for working class districts, or for rather blue collar districts, those are the kinds of areas where swing voters are going to care more about economics than social issues. And in those districts, it's very much harder for Democrats to win than in a suburban district where there are higher income Americans, there are college educated Americans who are pretty fine even during a state of inflation, and because of that, they can worry about things like abortion and care about those issues. So New York's 18th district is a very clear example of a district I think could flip from Republicans to the Democrats, or at least retain for the Democrats, since they did win this in 2020. So for context, Pat Ryan, who I guess is an advocate, he ran for New York's 19th district a few weeks ago to replace Antonio Delgado, who was the current Democratic incumbent before he resigned to become Lieutenant Governor of New York. So Pat Ryan went against a guy named Mark Molinaro, who used to be a state assembly or a state senator before he tried to run for the 2018 governorship against Andrew Cuomo. So he ran as a Republican, as a moderate Republican in New York's 19th. Pat Ryan won against him, and the reason why was because he focused on abortion. And because of that, this district stays blue, but since Pat Ryan is moving to the 18th, we, as an incumbent of the 19th, we think that the 19th as of now still leans Republican, but that could easily change next month. So if Democrats want a chance to win, they're going to have to keep New York's 18th with Pat Ryan, and then they're going to have to keep New York's 19th with Pat Ryan currently, but I guess it's but I guess they would have to try to keep it with Josh Riley. So those two districts there, 208 for the Democrats. Now we start to look at more suburban districts. I could see probably New Jersey 7th. There are a lot of, in New Jersey, like, there are a lot of diehard Malinowskians, I guess I would call them. That's a good name, Malinowskians. But anyway, yeah, this district, even though it has West rural New Jersey, it also has suburban areas of New York City, including New Brunswick, the northern New Brunswick region, as well as a little bit west of Montclair and Boontown. So because of that, if the Democrats want any chance of winning the House, they're going to have to keep that district. North Carolina's 13th district, kind of similar to New Jersey 7th. You have rural areas, but you also have a bunch of suburban areas, and that's a place where the Democrats could win. So that's another district. I would say Yvette Harrell's seat, this is a D+4 district, I believe. So even though it's not a suburban district, by all means, it's still it could be a very competitive district. And if the Democrats want any chance of winning the House, they're going to have to flip that seat. So that's New Mexico's 2nd district. What else? Okay, yeah, California, the Cell District. So California's 22nd district. This is suburban Fresno, San Bernardino, I think. Maybe not San Bernardino, but this is a D+10 district. So if the Democrats want any chance, yeah, they're going to have to flip this D10 district from David Villardo. And it's harder than it seems because David Villardo is a very popular representative, but it is a D+10 district. So that is a very tough, that means it's still very competitive for the Democrats. It's just because it's David Villardo, it's not set in stone. So that's a district they would need to get. California's 27th is also another one I could see because in the 2020 election, the Democrats were actually close to winning this district, or I guess winning this district, but they lost by around 0.1%, and Christy Smith is trying to challenge Mike Garcia again, so we could see that as a flip if the Democrats do win the House. So that's another district there. Now they are 213. Now it starts to get a tiny bit harder because now, you could also find Oregon's 5th because Kurt Schrader is a Democrat and he is the incumbent, but you do have a progressive here, which makes it a little bit harder considering that this district is on the more competitive side. But again, if Democrats want any chance to win, they're going to have to flip that kind of suburban district. What else? I guess Sharice Davids, she is a relatively popular representative in her district. It's just that this district is rated as R+3, so it's so it is on the more Republican side, but again, it is a suburban district, and Davids does know how to appeal to moderate voters. So yeah, again, it's like the Democrats do have a chance of winning in 2022, no doubt. But you see here, yeah, she won by 10%. Just shows how popular she is. But this was in a, I guess, D+4 district compared to an R+3. But yeah, the thing is, Democrats can win in 2022. But the thing is, they would have to win in almost every single competitive district that there is. They're gonna have to win here in Cherry Bustos' seat, which is trending more red. They're gonna have to retain, districts like Pennsylvania's 19th, which even though it is suburban, there are a lot of blue collar workers here. And from there, yeah, it starts to get harder and harder for me to see places where the Democrats could actually win. They need 218 as the majority. So where that other district would come, yeah, it's really hard because this district would seem plausible, but it is an R+6 district, so it's very Republican. I guess Elaine Luria's seat is possible, which is Virginia's 2nd district, and that would be the most likely one. But it is an R+6 district as well, so it's a very hard to get seat for the Democrats. But I just say that that kind of district is better suited for the Democrats than like something like Iowa's third, because Iowa's third, again, it's more like blue collar working people rather than the suburbs. So this is ultimately, I guess, the map that would be if Democrats were to win 218 seats and retain the majority. But the thing is, it's just so hard for the Democrats to do this. Like, so many things would have to go right. And you also have to consider that, like, even though Democrats are on a good steam right now, they are on a good roll with abortion and climate change and all of those issues. Ultimately, when it comes to actual election season, general election season, which starts after Labor Day, typically Republicans do regain in the polls. If you look at the 2018, maybe not the 2018 election, but the 2014 election or the 2010 election, you'll see that the Republicans weren't leading by that much, but after September, they started to rise in the poll, and because of that, they won the generic ballot in both of those elections by like around 6 points. So too early to say for if the Democrats could actually retain this kind of performance come 2022, come election day, but it is certainly possible, and that's the very surprising thing that we're learning at this point, which is it is incredibly possible. The fact that we're talking about this is pretty notable, considering that this was supposed to be a red wave year, and considering that the Republicans should have had such an easy route, but but unfortunately they just screwed it up with their candidates, and the Supreme Court got involved. So that's the story of 2022. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. This video is now adjourned, and I'll see you in the next one.